Hello, everybody. It is great to be here one more time today. My name is Gary Fowler. I am the CEO, president, founder of GSD Get You Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in the heart of Silicon Valley. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur with several unicorns under the belt. I was on the original management team at Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion. Also, Eva.ai, an HR tech company that I co-founded with Dr. David Yang. We believe at GSD that intellectual capacity is evenly spread, but opportunities are not. And today at Simplenight Presents, my good friend Sanjay Bhatia and I are going to be talking about super apps, the future super apps and startups. So with that, I'd like to bring my buddy on board. Hi, Sanjay. How are you today?
Hey Gary, happy Friday. How you doing today?
Good. So let's go down through, what exactly defines a super app and how is it different from regular mobile apps?
So I think there's a difference in the B2C world and the B2B world. So in the B2B world, you're looking at something like HubSpot where they literally have like some kind of functionality in nearly every area that a business might need, whether it's service, support, sales, marketing, all kinds of stuff. It's not necessarily, the best kind of like feature set, but it's good enough to get started with. And so you can get HubSpot, you can do almost everything you need to do good enough, and then you can upgrade to the more superior competitive technologies like once you're ready for it. On the consumer side, you're looking at things like WeChat, where WeChat, and that's a Chinese version of it, kind of like WhatsApp, but it's like they use it for transactions, they use it for chatting, they use it for conversations. There's a lot of AI layers. So it kind of becomes your best friend, where no matter what you need, whether it's to get on a bus or buy something retail or order food or whatever it is, you just kind of use this one interface to do that. On the business side, something like CRMs are becoming that. On the consumer side, these texting that, and I think where it's going, and Meta is putting a lot. I mean, seeing what WeChat is doing, Meta is putting a lot of emphasis on sort of the agentic capabilities of WhatsApp, and that will be your new interface for a lot of things you're going to want to do, like place orders. You see the Oakley and Ray-Ban glasses, the smart glasses, and they're kind of audio interfaces to really what's texting. And so you can use these interfaces to talk to these consumer super apps like and it will have different capabilities in terms of whatever you want to do that you normally do today through a web interface or a native app.
Yeah, I mean, you're right about, taking integrating multiple services and functionalities into one single because of the infobesity problem, and it's one platform. And so being able to do financial service or messaging like WeChat or ride hailing, can you imagine ride hailing, shopping, social media in one place? That's going to be the future.
Yeah, and especially when you talk about the multi-agent workflows, like, okay, say you want to do a trip and you just tell WhatsApp or whatever, kind of text interface, but maybe through your smart glasses, like, hey, I want to take a trip to Providence, Rhode Island. I'm going there next month, right? And so it can then go into using these other services as sub agents and say, okay, well, you're gonna need a flight, you need a hotel, you might need to rent a car or call an Uber, and all of that can just be scheduled ahead of time. Just and of course it'll confirm that you want to spend the money. But imagine like just having a personal assistant. That's part of the vision at Runday actually is to for every business interaction to feel like the owner. Like if I know the owner of if I want to get my dog groomed and I know the owner, I just text them, hey, when can I bring him in? It's you don't go through this convoluted process of registration, and now you got to like put a 6-digit code in from your email, and it's become a mess, right? And so it's like you just text the owner, he's like, okay, got you booked, and they know everything about the business, they know everything about the schedule, the inventory, the availability, the staff, and the AIs are becoming that, and that's what we're working to build is a world where business interactions feel like the owner.
We were right about WeChat and some of these tools out there. Well, how are the startups uniquely positioned to drive innovation in the super app ecosystem?
Well, you want to be one of the. I mean, it's hard to become a super app. There's not going to be that many of them, and these are going to be billion, eventually $1 trillion companies that are doing these things. But you want to kind of have integrations to it. So if you're a pizza delivery conduit of some kind, right? Like so, if I go to Google right now and I search for hotels, there's all these prices that pop up, right? Those are integrations, and then those integrations then connect to the different hotel chains that they have partnerships. So you probably can't, build something like Google Maps where it finds hotels for you, but you can be a pricing integration where pricing offers show up and then you're doing your own back end work to source those hotel rooms in different ways. So just by being kind of that intermediate integration, you can build a big business.
No, it's interesting. And what do you think? What critical success factors or critical factors determine whether a startup can scale successfully into a super app? How do you go down through and go from one to many?
Well, I mean, not a lot of companies have ever done it, and so you have to be very, very good at one thing, and then start expanding. So you look at Zoho CRM, you look at Salesforce, they're a super app now. You look at HubSpot, which we use, and these all started as kind of department specific solutions. Or there's some support ones that are now evolving into more operating systems. Slack, even, right? So Slack was very specific in
Hmm.
terms of, it turned out it was something else before, and then it was a project management system. Now it's an operating system. So you got to think about, yeah, and that's the nomenclature is also changing from, like, instead of multi-agent frameworks to like AI operating systems. So you got to think in terms of AI operating system, but the operating system has to do something useful first. No one's going to just adopt your operating system. That's a major change, right? And so you look at, regular operating systems like Linux or Windows and Mac. They did very specific things to niches at the very beginning, whether it was designers with Apple or spreadsheet users of Microsoft. So Windows and Microsoft Office, now it's this massive suite of hundreds of apps and features and everything. But it didn't start that way, right? It just started like, okay, you had Excel and you had Windows, and they worked together really well, and that scaled, and then that became some more. Then they added Word, and they bought some other companies. Apple did the same thing. They were, more on the design side, and so you got to get that initial audience right, and then you can say, okay, we've built $1 billion business doing this. Now, what else can we do? Do we acquire some companies? Do we build some other capabilities? How do we take our audience that we already have, find some other things? What are problems we're not solving for them? So there's the thing about a super app is there's not going to be a lot of them in the world. There may be, I mean, OpenAI is a super app, right? So now OpenAI is integrating with your Gmail and, purchasing Perplexity. There's a, if you get the pro version,
Let's
you
talk about that. How's OpenAI integrating with the Gmail? Let's talk about it, how that evolved and what does that mean?
Yeah, they're starting to do integrations with your Gmail and your calendar, so you'll be able to ask ChatGPT. What they're not leading in this case; they're actually behind. So if you look at 11 Labs, for example, they have something called 11.ai now, so they're a little bit further ahead. But these smaller companies are showing what's possible, and then the big companies are like OpenAI now are adopting what works. They're like letting the ecosystem figure it out, and then whatever works, they're kind of taking over and becoming the super app. And so you'll be able to ask ChatGPT things about, hey, what's my day like tomorrow? Much more real time data that's in, or like, who is that? Sometimes I'm bad. Sometimes I'll remember a conversation, but I'll forget the exact executive. Was it the CTO that said that, or the CEO? So if it's in my email thread, these AIs can read your email. Gemini can already do this. Gemini also can look at YouTube transcripts and things like that. So there's just different data sources that we're going to have a lot of integration. So the super apps are going to be, Gemini, OpenAI, perhaps the AI agents that are, part of WeChat or Meta. But to me, it's the future is kind of a conversational experience you use through smart glasses or maybe your Apple Watch, or you're just texting on your phone. But we're going to see a lot less visual interface. People don't want to log in. They don't want to go to their laptop, one, especially the younger generations, like having to go find a desk, plug in your laptop. Like that's
Mhm.
something people are doing less and less. Even video editing, right? There's things like CapCut that have become very popular. And the reason they've done so well is because, one, they're focused on that form factor for the phone in terms of the videos it produces, but also you can start on your laptop and then get on your Uber and edit your video while you're on the Uber. So I think the next evolution is beyond that, where you'll just describe to CapCut or describe to your video editor the changes you want, and through combination of agents and potentially humans in the loop, that kind of things will get done a lot faster.
So what role does user data and AI play in the future development of super apps?
It's gonna have to. So we're working with some of our biggest clients now, where we've done support for them, we've done inbound, we've done outbound, we've done outreach, and the next wave is really to look at each customer's data. So for them to ask questions like, "Hey, how were our marketing results last month?" Initially there'll be a web interface on a use for your laptop, but gradually that becomes put on a phone number where you can just on your way to your meeting, you just like you would text your assistant, like, "Hey, what were the marketing results for last month?" And it'll say, "Oh, well, the views were up 20%, but the maybe conversions were down. So we increased volume, but we got the wrong kind of volume." So things like that will be very straightforward. Instead of, okay, go produce a 12-page report and let me read it. It just sort of gets to the point.
So, what are some challenges starters face when entering the super app market?
Just the amount of funding and budget that the existing super apps have is really, I mean, it's tough to compete with a HubSpot or an OpenAI or a WeChat. So just whatever you do, they're gonna be able to fund it and already have that giant user base. So how are you gonna develop that initial niche of users that are loyal to you? That's gonna be the biggest challenge.
How's regulation going to impact the growth of super apps, especially regarding data privacy? What do you think, Sanjay?
I think it depends on the country. The U.S. and China are kind of in an AI arms race. So I'm not sure how much regulation is gonna be involved. I mean, Europe is very different. They have very privacy and data sensitivity rules and all. So Europe's probably going to leave the privacy angle. You're seeing India do certain things in the same regard, Central America, and I think the U.S. and China is going to be interesting because they're going to potentially do whatever it takes and at the expense of privacy, while other countries will have more straightforward and robust privacy regulation in place very soon.
So, what are some of the challenges starters face when entering the super app market? What kind of challenges do they have? They're coming into this thing. There's a lot of competitors. What challenges do they have? What challenges do Runday have?
Well, we have a lot of integration. So we really have a review orchestration framework. It uses dozens of different tools and platforms under the hood. It works with what you have in place. So, we're not trying to compete with a HubSpot. We work with it. And so you have to align with, these existing super app platforms and kind of where they're going and how you help them get there faster. Trying to, swim against the current is going to be very difficult.
So, let's talk about a little bit further. What do you think about taking these complex multiple functionalities you talked about? How hard is it going to be for startups to be able to take, this one many to one? How hard is it going to be for them to do that, and at the same time be high performance and have the right kind of security?
Well, it's becoming easier than ever to build these things. It's becoming harder than ever to stay relevant. So it's more of a what's your distribution channel going to be? So building it is, especially with these AI coding tools, you can prototype and build things, iterate much faster than before. But your distribution is another matter. So like just building a partner ecosystem and really having strategic relationships with the existing platforms is going to be very crucial.
Can collaboration between established enterprises and startups accelerate super app innovation, or will it hinder it?
Oh, it's much more than ever. I think the bigger platforms are looking to startups for innovation right now. I've been surprised at some of the large Fortune 50 customers that we've been able to work with. Years ago, they wouldn't have done business with a startup, but the AI is so important that that's something that big enterprises, whether it's tech platforms or traditional companies, are very open to today.
What future trends should entrepreneurs watch closely regarding the super app, Sanjay? What's important for them to look for today, and also for Fortune 500 companies? What should they be looking at in a super
I
app
don't know.
company?
I don't know the timing on this, but I do think this trend toward these smart glasses, potentially ones that don't have a screen or very minimal screens, is going to be massive. I think people are addicted to their phones. They're tired of their phones. Frankly, there's a lot of people like trying, not successfully, but trying to ditch their phones and and the amount of screen time is ridiculous, especially for some of the younger generations. So these smart glasses, the audio interfaces, let you kind of be in the world and have an AI assistant or coach or friend be a part of your journey where you need navigation help, or you need to check on a price or order something. You can still do that through your smart glasses. I think will be, and Apple and Meta, they're putting billions into getting screen technology into glasses. So I think we'll go through a phase where you'll do things for audio, whether through Apple Watch or through your glasses. They're selling millions of them, and they look pretty good now. Like you can almost can't even tell that someone's wearing them. I mean, the sides are a little bit thicker. The newer ones are
Do you have a pair of those glasses yet, Sanjay? Because I know you like gadgets.
I'm waiting for the Oakleys actually. So I may I didn't want to get the Ray-Bans. I like the Oakley style better, so I've been waiting for that one. So I'll probably pick one of those up.
And who's gonna, is that
I
Meta
do
or?
have a I do have an Alexa pair, but the Alexa unfortunately has they did some really revolutionary things with Alexa, but once they realized that that technology wasn't the future, they cut the budget and cut the team substantially. So Alexa is not, I have all these Alexa speakers, and she can probably hear me. But
She?
yeah, yeah, it's a she, the Alexa.
And do you talk to her?
I talk to her all the time. I tell her to, play ocean sounds when I go to bed. She reminded me of my morning workout. So, but she's not what she used to be, right? So I think Siri and
Why is
Alexa
that?
both. I mean, they budget, frankly. So they put a tremendous amount of budget into the Lex engine, before ChatGPT came out and Transformers came out. And Amazon, once they realized that this wasn't a good investment, they cut that budget and that team dramatically. So the amount of compute and staff that's available in the Alexa team is just a fraction of what it used to be. And so they're working on some newer technologies like Luma and everything. So I think there's going to be, just like Apple's doing the same thing. They have Siri, but they're trying to create a new version of it, and it's just taking longer than expected. So yeah, I think you're going to have, the new Siri, the new Alexa, they're going to have these capabilities. And so yeah, I did do the Alexa smart glasses, but by the time I did them, the Alexa engine had been sort of cut down. But Meta's putting, tremendous amounts of money into their AR, VR, and AI initiatives right now. So they may, end up becoming, potentially one of the leaders. I mean, the new Gemini Pro has really great specs, and they're open sourcing it, so that power of open source and community
Mm.
is going to create some acceleration.
So what about these Oakley glasses you were talking about? What's the deal with them? Why are they different?
They have about they look better to me. I just always liked that Oakley style. Back before my LASIK, I had Oakley frames. I just like the style, and they about twice the battery life of the Ray Bans.
And who is that, Meta?
It's Meta, yeah, Meta Oakley, and so they don't
And
have
when
they
are
don't
they
have a
coming
screen.
out?
I think in the middle of July.
How fast are you going to get a pair of those?
We'll see. I may try them on first, but I don't know if I'll order them right away.
No, that's great.
But I
Um,
think, yeah. So the screenless glasses are going to be, a thing, and then they'll figure out how to create kind of some kind of minimal screens where, if you're driving, you can get your maps, you can do these types of things, or the question becomes like whether the glasses will require your phone or not. Initially, they will, just like the Apple Watch did, right? The Apple Watch had to have your phone. Your iPhone had to have your computer at first to really do everything with it. And then gradually these platforms become independent where you'll just walk around with your glasses, and, you know, you may be able to make payments with it and things like that, and not need your phone or any other device.
so, we talked about the impact of super apps, the growth of super apps, but then we talk about the data privacy. Do you think we have to worry about our data because we now will have super apps that will know everything? Is it a challenge, and do we have to have it regulated?
Oh, we have to have it regulated. The question is, how are the regulations actually protecting us? Is it just a function of companies paying fines to the government? And I think what you see there is the government almost wants the money, right? So they regulate in a way where they just fine the companies, and they're like, oh, keep doing it. I mean, Wells Fargo is an example where, they had criminal levels of privacy and other issues where they just kept paying fines and the government just was happy collecting the money. So regulation sometimes turns into that game where the government just, it becomes a tax. And so I don't see that as actually protecting the consumer. I think the way Europe's doing it, where there's actual limitation. I mean, food is a better example maybe to talk about. Like in Europe, they literally ban the foods, dyes and Roundup and these different chemicals. They don't allow them in the food. Countries like the UK, they have labeling laws where you can do what you want, but if it's in there at all, you have to label it. So when even American companies that produce products in the UK, they make them differently. Right now with RFK, we're trying to do more of that. So there's different approaches. The US has kind of had a model where you just let people pay fines. Hate to say it, but that's sort of what it's become in a lot of cases. The UK has sort of a labeling kind of philosophy where they let you do what you want to do, but you have to disclose it. And then, the EU is sort of saying, no, we're just going to ban these things, and this is simply not allowed.
Now it's interesting. So we're coming up to the top of the show. Sanjay, your closing thoughts and how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can get a hold of me at Sanjay at runday.ai, runday.ai, like Sunday with an R. And I think this next era of conversational experiences is very exciting to me. I think mobile web has been kind of a disaster, with all the cookies and having to send one-time codes and all this stuff, and a world where every business just has a phone number or a social handle, and you communicate through messaging, whether it's through your glasses or through texting. I think that's very exciting.
Sanjay, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. We appreciate it on Simple Night Presents. My name is Gary Fowler, and I'm your host. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. We'll be back to you again soon with another exciting edition. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks, Sanjay. Really appreciate it. Thank you.